Yep, there we go.
I'll call the regular meeting. And the first item will be the oath of office for HRA Commissioner Doris Rubenstein.
Doris, will you raise your right hand? I, Doris Rubenstein,
I, Doris Rubenstein,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution and laws of the United States
to support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of the state of Minnesota
and of the state of Minnesota
and of the charter
and the charter
and ordinances of the city of Richfield,
and ordinances of the city of Richfield,
and to discharge faithfully
and to discharge faithfully
the duties devolving upon me
the duties devolving upon me
as HRA Commissioner
as HRA Commissioner
of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority
of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority
of the city of Richfield
of the city of Richfield
for a term commencing October 2017
for a term expiring October 2017,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and we're glad you're staying with us
Yes,
in
we
the
are.
next term.
Thank
One of the most satisfying things I do all year round.
The next item is the roll call.
Commissioner Rubenstein,
Present.
Commissioner Gotel,
Here.
Commissioner Gepner,
I'm here.
Pro Tem Commissioner Quam,
Here.
Chair Quam, and Chair Sandal is absent tonight.
Thank you. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the regular HRA meeting of October 15th, 2012, and the special HRA City Council Planning Commission meeting of November 1, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Next is the HRA approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. And the next item is the consent calendar.
Thank you, Chair Quam, members of the HRA. The consent calendar for those at home and those watching in the audience contains several separate items which are acted upon by the HRA in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and the recommended actions have also been approved, and no further HRA action on these items is necessary. Tonight, we've only got two items on the consent agenda. Item A, which is consideration of approval of a resolution authorizing the purchase of real property at 6400 17th Avenue for future redevelopment. And item B, consideration of approval of a resolution authorizing purchase of real property at 7600 Pillsbury Avenue for future development. And that concludes tonight's consent calendar.
Are there any questions?
I'll move the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Item number 4, consideration of a proposed settlement made by the owner of 6320 15th Avenue of an HRA home mortgage.
Yes, thank you, Chair Quam. Again, this item is for the HRA to consider whether to approve or deny a proposal that's being made by the owner of 6320 15th Avenue for settlement of a $26,000 new home mortgage in the amount of $2,600. And I'm going to ask John Stark to make this presentation to the HRA.
Thank you, Chair Quam and Commissioners. On March 1st, 1999, Affordable Suburban Housing sold the house at 6320 15th Avenue to Joan Bullimer through the Housing and Redevelopment Authority's new home program. To make the home affordable, the Richfield HRA provided a second mortgage in the amount of $26,000. The terms of the loan require the homeowner to repay the loan in full at no interest upon sale of the property, upon default of the first mortgage, or after 30 years. Due to financial and personal reasons, the owner is now attempting to sell the property to avoid foreclosure. The owner recently received an offer of $180,000. After paying off the first mortgage, fees and commissions, and closing costs, the settlement leaves the homeowner $117,000 and more short of covering all costs. The first mortgagor is offering the HRA a settlement in the amount of $2,600. And we've got a chart there showing how much each party would get paid. The first mortgage would get paid in the settlement that's being proposed, 63% of the amount owed. What they're suggesting is that the HRA receive 10% of the amount owed. If the HRA and the homeowner cannot reach an agreement regarding the payoff of the mortgage, the property is likely to go into foreclosure. The sheriff's sale is currently scheduled for January 13th. As a lien holder, the HRA would have the opportunity to redeem the foreclosure. To do so, however, the HRA would either have to satisfy the outstanding mortgage or negotiate a settlement with the mortgage company in the first position. So the same situation as the current homeowner. So again, this is something at the HRA's discretion. We as a staff feel that the chances at getting $2,600 now versus the possibility that the HRA would probably receive nothing in a foreclosure makes settlement a good option. I do believe the homeowner is here tonight. If you have any questions of her, otherwise staff would take any questions you might have.
May we make a motion so we can discuss?
Yes, do I have a motion?
I would make a motion to approve or deny. I'm actually going to make the motion to approve a proposal made by the owner at 6320 15th Avenue for settlement of a $26,000 new home mortgage in the amount of $2,600.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. We can continue to discussion. Do members of the commission have questions?
You know, I just, one thing, I know that we've done this on other HRA homes, you know, in lieu of the economic crisis here. And I want to make a comment that I think, because there's a seller and everything like this, our ultimate goal really is to have somebody in the home, right? A homeowner. And this does accomplish that, even though financial times being what they are. I don't think we necessarily want to go after trying to get this house, because I don't think that's in our best interest, and we would just try to sell it again anyway.
Yeah, I would just note that it sounds like the next buyer is offered $180,000. The assessed market value of the house is $172,000, which is down from the nearly $300,000 that's owed on the property. And this is one of those cases where, you know, it's not really, you know, in my opinion, there's no fault of the current homeowner. It's just the nature of the marketplace. She hasn't done anything to devalue her house per se. It's just the market around her has
It's financial
reduced.
times,
Yep.
Any other observations or questions?
I have a comment, Mr. Chair. You know, this is just one of those unfortunate circumstances where accepting less than we would like is better than nothing, and as what was previously pointed out, it's a smoother transition than allowing the house to go into foreclosure and having to have somebody try to find a buyer for it.
Does the homeowner wish to make any comment? Just to repeat, she states that she appreciates our consideration.
Thank you for coming tonight.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item number 5 is consideration of a professional services contract with Startec related to our housing vision process.
Thank you again, Chair Quam, members of the HRA. This, of course, is the front end of that housing visioning process that we're talking about to get housing policy going. And again, I'm going to ask John Stark to make this presentation to the HRA.
Thank you. You know, this discussion started last summer when policymakers really put staff on notice that we needed to develop some better policies as they relate to housing. Staff's suggestion was that, you know, creating some policies would really be better off being the second step in a two-step process. The first step was to develop a vision for what our housing might look like. And so staff at the August 20th work session suggested that a facilitator experienced in leading such a process would be helpful to ensure that the discussion could be open and engaging to a variety of participants with a variety of viewpoints. You know, so often what happens in some of these meetings is that the person with the loudest voice is often the one that gets heard. The person with the loudest voice doesn't always have the best ideas, and the facilitator would help ensure that all the voices are heard, try to kind of keep the conversation moving, and provide some assistance in topics, in providing the experts that we'd like to come in and talk to us. So to that end, staff did go out and talk to a number of communities about similar studies that they had done and who helped facilitate the process for them. In those conversations, the same name kept coming up over and over and over again, and that was John Shardlow, currently with Startec. And John's, he's got a long history. I'm not sure how much he'll tell you, but you may know him from Dahlgren, Shardlow, and Euban, which was a firm that he'd started a long time ago, and has since merged into Startec. So we had asked him to provide a proposal. That proposal is attached, and it's an approximate amount of $24,000. You know, staff is using its best efforts to ensure community input and involvement in the housing visioning process. As an initial step, a housing visioning page has been added to the city's website and included tonight's proposal. The Richfield Sun Current and Richfield Patch also made note of tonight's consideration of the Startec proposal, and we're trying to keep this as informational as possible. I do see one person in the audience tonight, and what we're suggesting is that really with every step of the housing visioning process, whether or not it's formally called a public hearing or not, that you know, it'd be in all of our best interest to always take public comment on that. So that's our suggestion tonight as well. And I did see that the Patch and Sun Current did run something about tonight's meeting. So we're getting the word out at any rate. If the proposal is accepted, the next major step in the housing visioning process would be the identification of community members to serve on the Housing Vision Task Force. Several policymakers have already suggested several potential task force members to staff, and staff will also be working with the Sun Current and Patch to seek task force members. I'm thinking that something's going to go in next week's Sun Current, kind of a call for interested people. So again, you know, we talked about in August, one goal is to have this be as youthful of a task force as we can. And I will tell you though, a lot of the names we've had suggested to us don't really fall into that descriptor. So again, I would ask you or anybody watching on TV, if you know somebody that might be passionate about housing or passionate about the city of Richfield, please let us know. Suggest them to serve on this committee, especially if they're a young family or a young person. So with that, John Shardlow is here. He can give a little introduction and tell you a little bit about what he's proposing.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Shardlow.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members. I'll be very brief in terms of my long history. I've been a planning consultant for 34 years. I have assisted over 100 cities in Minnesota with their community planning, variety of different projects. I've also done an equally extensive amount of private sector work, literally hundreds of residential projects throughout the state. And throughout my career, I have done a lot of community engagement and community participation. I have worked with a number of task forces and advisory panels and other groups, and issues very similar to this one. I would say that I've never done the same process twice because every community is unique and every situation is unique. But there definitely are some principles that I would always recommend. And one of those is to make sure that you have the right people on the commission or on the group, the task force. And I know that John and other staff members have talked about that. want to make sure that you have a diverse representation of viewpoints and geographic and age and so forth. And the second thing is we always inform people and educate people before we ask them for their opinions. And so if you look at the process that we've laid out, the first 6 or 7 workshops are really providing information to the group from a variety of different perspectives. And we will, at the end of this, come forward with a vision statement for housing for the city. And it would be my expectation that the people who participate in preparing the vision would also be part of presenting that to the HRA and to the community. I can't commit to exactly what form that'll take because I haven't met these folks yet, but I'm expecting that they will be active participants in that presentation. So happy to answer any questions you have about specifics, but that's the gist of it.
Do commissioners have questions or comments?
I also know of John's work, and I'm very pleased that the staff chose John Charlo from Startec. I think we're going to have a really great process here. Otherwise, I have some other comments, but they're not about his
Thank you.
qualifications.
Have we worked with you before?
He worked with the firm.
With the firm, right.
One
We
of my associates was involved in doing a housing study for you not too long ago.
Right.
My firm merged with Bonestro, and Bonestro
Right.
merged with Stantec a year ago, and so Bonestro has done some engineering
That's what I
consulting work
thought.
with the city.
Okay. We've always been happy with your work.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. Did you have, I don't want to jump in ahead of you. Did you have something you wanted to ask too? Yes.
Not at this time.
Okay. One is, you said you always do a unique process. What is unique about the process that you shaped for Richfield?
Well, the information is specific to Richfield, for one thing. Part of it will be informing the community about housing conditions that are specific to Richfield. And then depending upon the way the issues shape up, we will be specific about the experts that we bring in to talk to the community and help them about that information. So that's the extent
Okay.
to which it's unique.
Okay. And then the other question I had was workshop number 8, navigating the new normal. Can you just tell me a little bit more what that actually would entail? It's working with the ULI.
Sure. Just as a point of information, I'm the past chair of the Minnesota chapter of the Urban Land Institute, and I volunteer a lot of my time with that organization. Mayor Gattell and I co-chair the Environment Committee for the Regional Council of Mayors, and that's one of the things I also do through the Urban Land Institute. Another process that I have been working with is the Navigating the New Normal, which is an outgrowth of the housing initiative that Minnesota ULI has been working on. And the idea of Navigating the New Normal is that it's sponsored by the Minnesota Housing Finance, or Family Housing Fund, rather. And if a community is willing to do the process, they will pay for the cost of doing a very deep dive on the community's demographics and do a very deep analysis of the community's housing stock and look at the economic development conditions in the community. And that information is presented by Kathy Bennett, who is a consultant to Minnesota ULI, Bennett Consulting. And then Gordon Hughes, who's the past city manager in Edina, is also working for that group. And so Kathy and Gordon will make a presentation about some factual information about the community. And then there's a panel that consists of a municipal finance expert, a developer, typically a planner, and did I say developer?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
You
there's a panel that will come and then give the community their candid feedback about what they think is working or isn't working well in the community. And so it's an opportunity to hear from people who don't have a horse in the race, if you will. I mean, so many times when a developer comes before the community, they're advocating for their own specific project, and it's hard to divorce what they're saying from their own self-interest. In this case, it's a group of people who are volunteering their time and coming to the community with their candid recommendations about how things could be better in the future. So we were intentional about where we placed that in the process. We wanted to make sure that the group was well-grounded in the information before they got that information, because we didn't want it to be seen as preempting anybody's judgment about the process. And so what we thought we would do is have the group be pretty well along in their formulation of their ideas, and that they would then come and be witnesses, if you will, be in the audience while that presentation is given to the city council. And that would be subsequent to that we would solicit their input in terms of the specific visioning process. But that's what that program consists of.
And the reason that you have it where it is so that they can tweak their vision or reconsider it or whatever after they've heard this, but
Yeah, I mean,
like you said,
in
not
my
to-
judgment, if I was just a layperson, not just a layperson, but I'm not an expert in housing, and I come to the process, and the first part of the process is a bunch of experts with decades of experience who say, this is what we think you should do, I think that would have the potential to kind of make people shut down or be intimidated, and that's not the idea.
all right, thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the HRA or comments?
Just regarding that, not regarding that,
Mhm.
I have questions.
Okay.
about that.
Questions to ask?
One of
Okay.
the things that I know that was discussed about this, and actually I really like the idea, is having a futurist. And I know I've done some background work on that. There is a futurist who does housing work in the Twin Cities area. And I just think that that's a real, and again, one of those things that's off to the side that would give a perspective as we start to look to the future. Because I think one of the hardest things if you talk to a layperson is, okay, I know what I kind of like right now, but that's not necessarily what the future holds for us, and that's not what the younger generation maybe wants.
I think, we've been trying to keep a log of experts to invite in the process. I think we have the futurists name down, but could you just email that to me just in
Yeah,
case?
I'll go check back with I have I have a couple of friends who are actually in that club, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were doing a dry run on it, and they were talking about it. So I know that they're preparing for that so that they have a decent presentation for us. So they were looking at Richfield, because I said I need it specific to a first-ring suburb, so.
It seemed to me that was referenced in this proposal also, wasn't it?
Somewhere.
Didn't you
but
have a reference to,
that was, and I don't see it in this one.
oh, okay,
Um,
but I saw it somewhere in here.
Couple
Okay.
other comments. I think Facebook and Twitter may get us some of the young folks, but I also think that it might be really good if we, and I would be happy to put my name to a letter to the churches, especially some of our churches with more diversity, to find some of those people of diverse background to get onto this. I think it's essential if we really want this to be an inclusive process for the future, that we get some people of color on this and participating, and find a way to help them if it's a ride or if it's babysitting or something, that we make it accessible for them. So if you want me to pen that letter and call those pastors of those churches, I would be happy to do that.
That would be outstanding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think what I saw in here was a paragraph that said, we would work with Dean Fisher at the University of Minnesota to identify a speaker who could stretch the participants' thinking about future housing. And that may not be the same thing as a futurist, so, okay.
May I
Any
make
other-
a motion?
Before you do, perhaps we should ask if anyone wants to address us about this. Anyone want to give input? Okay. Yes.
So I'll make a motion, consider the public comment and authorize staff to enter into a professional service contract with Startec for services related to the housing visioning process.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
I'd like to just make one comment. When I was reading through it, I was really happy to see that Kathy Bennett was going to be involved with this. We've worked with her before, and I just have great confidence in what she presents.
Oh, yeah. Good people.
All right, any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. I look forward to working with you. And Mr. Stark, the one thing I noticed was that the presentation just was going to go to the city council, and I'm really hoping we'll get to be invited to.
And the planning commission.
Yeah,
That it can- that it can
everything, we're going to
become
try
a
to make
joint.
everything as joint as
Yeah. Okay.
possible.
I was pretty sure that
It would be,
that would
yeah.
happen. Item number 6 is HRA discussion items, and there are a couple items about rescheduling meetings in the coming year. Mr. Stark or
Actually,
Beveridge?
yes,
Okay.
Chair Quam, members of the HRA, you've got a couple of issues with regarding your schedule. And, you know, for your January meeting, which would be typically Monday, January 21st, that's got to be rescheduled because of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. It typically goes to the next day, but this is one of those rare years where the next day is a Tuesday city council meeting, so you can't do that Tuesday. So
Could we do the Wednesday?
that would certainly be a possibility.
I believe I'm in town.
I know I'm in town for that time. Can we recommend that? Can
That
we
would be fine
recommend
with
that,
us
Chair?
if the other commissioners, we can get something out. We'll get something out tomorrow to commissioners
Yeah.
suggesting that that's the day.
And then, see if we
And
can
then,
confirm.
yeah, if there's any problem with it, we'll have to get back to you. Then the
We're-
following month, you know, you've got Monday, February 18th as your regular HRA meeting, and that's got to be changed due to President's Day, but I don't think there's a problem there. You just make it the next day, which is Tuesday, like we typically have done in the past.
Well,
So we're looking at January 23rd and February 19th?
Yes.
We'll make a note of that, and you'll follow up with us. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. Are there any other HRA discussion items?
yes, Chair. Sorry, it's just Suzanne sitting there. I didn't mean to call you Madam Chair. Excuse me, Mr. Chair. You know, in lieu of the financial crisis that we see in all the homes that we've helped so many very, you know, financial issues with people, and we have these houses and we're losing money on them. We are. I mean, we should have gotten 26,000 back, and we took 2,600, and there's several others we have done similar to, and with no regrets on I don't think any part here. But to that, you know, that's a revolving fund that goes into our HRA, and I think as we look at budgeting coming up next time, I want to make sure that that is available, because the uptick in the economy is coming, and we want to be able to help those futures too, and I don't want to see those resources depleted. So when we look at the next string of budgeting, can we request to specifically look at that piece, find out where we are, and see if we need to be plugging a hole somewhere for
Sure.
that, so we keep
No
that
problem.
program going? Okay, that's my comment. That's all I have.
Thank you.
To that end, let me ask a question. You know, had you planned on getting the $26,000 back in 25 years from now? And
No.
how does it really affect the budget?
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, you know, we keep a database that tells us when all of these loans come due. But we have historically, most of the loaning that we do is forgivable if the person stays in the house. There's a small percentage that are not, but we don't count on those paybacks for our budgeting. So any paybacks we get is really kind of gravy to add to the process. The primary funding source for transformation homes, and that's, I think, the one that the HRA is most connected to or most supportive of, is the TIF from several TIF districts. In a TIF district, you take the amount of increment that comes off of the district. Typically, a developer can get, I believe, 75% of that increment, and then 10% of it can go to pay administrative costs, so staff salaries, attorney's fees, those kinds of things. But then 15% of the TIF for these projects can be pooled to use throughout the community. And that 15% of TIF off of Best Buy, off of the Woodlake Center, off of several other projects, is what is funding transformation home loans and several of these other programs. And when we budget, we only look at that source. We don't look at the payback.
But we just lost a big TIF district as well, came off the rolls.
That's true, but that was not a contributor
Oh,
to
it
the,
wasn't?
no, to the
Oh.
housing fund.
I thought it was, okay.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion from the HRA? If not, we will move to the Executive Director report. Mr. Devich.
Thank you, Chair Quam, members of the HRA. I'm going to make just a brief statement. Excuse me. Those of you who watched the news this evening before you got here, noticed that there was a big event over at the MAC today, late this afternoon. The MAC voted on whether or not they were going to go with the recommendation to the FAA to go ahead with the RNAV system, which would have put the course of flights that are now flying over Richfield, south of Crosstown, down to sometimes maybe 67th Street, maybe or so, 68th even, would have put them on eventually on a course that would have been directed by electronic transmission and put them right over the Crosstown, so they wouldn't have veered south into Richfield. You know, in the from my perspective, in the 11th hour, the city of Edina became very concerned about that because they were looking at more concentrated flights over certain areas of Edina. And some folks in South Minneapolis were very concerned about it. And so today, we were at the MAC for probably, I think I left after maybe 3 hours, 3.5 hours. But Tom Fitzhenry, myself, Pam Dimitrenko, Christine Costello were there representing Richfield. And in the end, the MAC decided to provide a motion that was kind of a compromise that said they would go ahead with the RNAV system for the south departures, but not the northern departures off of the two parallel runways. And by the way that the Federal Aviation, FAA schedules in their pipeline for doing these projects, by not doing this project now means that it would be at least 16 months before they could begin to consider it again. So, as I mentioned to the MAC in my last comment, is that, you know, for the past year and a half after the near collision of two airplanes off the parallel runways, about 16, 18 months ago, they've been putting flights over the northern part of Richfield over homes that are not mitigated for sound attenuation. And that's been going on, and Richfield didn't really have any choice on that. And I understand it's a safety measure. But by delaying it, that just means that those same people will probably end up putting up with that for another close to 2 years before something might happen. So folks can read about it all they want in the paper tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be there. I just want to say that Tom Fitzhenry, who's our representative on the Noise Oversight Committee, spoke on behalf of Richfield, and I spoke. Pam Dimitrenko did a lot of work in the background this weekend. We've contacted a lot of people, but it's very interesting. The power there does lie with Minneapolis and Edina, so that's what's going to happen.
Thank you. Any other items under this item on the agenda? If not, we'll move to claims and payrolls.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. If there is no objection to adjournment, hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.